And I beheld heaven open, and behold a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. We are at
so
war.
You better lace your straps up.
Physical and spiritual.
We're at war. So you better lace your straps up.
Man in hell up this room.
This is war.
We are at war.
So you better lace your straps up.
Physical and spiritual.
We're at war. So you better lace your straps
Man in hell
up.
up this room. Big tanks, warships, and planted hands with small chips. North Korea, Russian spies, war is at our doorsteps. History doesn't lie, they beat the slaves with horse whips. So I think it's only right we pay them back with sword tips. End of time, spoken of, it's gonna get a little warm. Daniel 7 started 8, judgment of the little horn that beat us down, held us back, called us by obscenities. Prepare us a table in the presence of our enemies and pay them back. Worse than that, they argue that the earth is flat. Our babies dying, mothers crying, cities full of murdered blacks. Hispanics too, they hate you too. Edomites are not your friend. Harmless smile behind the scenes. They tracking you through iPhone 10 technologies, through policy. We served them since the colonies. This ain't our rest, my mind is right. This place is hell, I'm not at ease. I swore an oath with every breath. I promise to defend the law. Sword is sharpened, armored up. I'm calling for the men of
This is
war.
war.
We are at
So
war.
you better lace your straps up.
Physical and spiritual.
We're at war. So you better lace your straps up.
Man in hell up this room.
This is war.
We are at war.
So you better lace your straps up.
Physical and spiritual.
We're at war. So you better lace your straps
Man in hell
up.
up. 3, 2.
This is Patrick Dells, Maccabee TV. Yes, sir. If you want to reach me, you can reach me on 6315-302329. That's the New York number, and the Grenada number is 1473-416-2310. My website is Patrick Dells, holistic.healing.com. My YouTube channel is Master Herbalist Patrick Dells, and my Facebook channel is Patrick Dells. Boom! Maccabees TV, man. Bless up. With thanks. All right.
Peace and blessings, family. Shalom, shalom. All right, all right, all right. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing well. Let's see here. 1 second. Y'all just saw me for a second. It's a little dark in here. That's why I don't have the camera on. I'm at my second slave. I might turn it on in a little while. But how's everybody doing, man? Let me come and check my chat out. Let's see what's going on over there. All right, family, let's go. Let's get them lights up. Let's get them lights up. Let's get the lights up. You guys know the routine. You guys already know the etiquette when you come in the house. Please hit the like button. Let's trigger this algorithm and show YouTube that we are engaged in the video. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Can I just get a sound check? A sound check if I could. The name of the song is called "This Is War," right? I'm gonna go ahead and drop my website in the chat, right? The name of the song is called "This Is War," and I'll drop my I'll go ahead and drop my link for my website in the chat. Go ahead and check that out on your own leisure. No problem. Maybe after I'm done here, I'll go and I'll actually show you guys. That's the website right there. That's the link where you can get the music at. So Augustus K, I see you in the building. Zerubbabel, Judah, I see you in the building. TA, I see you in the building. Of course, my system Shalom Nava, I see you in the building. Linda Ricks. Liberar su mente. Free your mind. That's what that means in Spanish, family. I see you in the building as well. Of course, peace and blessings and love to everybody that's actually watching this on Facebook as well. I say peace and blessings to you guys as well. Let me see something real quick. How we doing over here? All right. Yeah, you guys can see me. I wasn't going to turn the camera on, but that's all right. You guys can see me. It's all good. It is all good. All right. So, normally, one second. Normally, what I do is when we have high holy days in our camp, we normally have the high holy days amongst ourselves. And I rarely come online and do anything on here related to the holy days. But there's some brothers and sisters that, you're new to the faith and you don't know much about dedication and stuff like that. So I decided to put together and cobble together a quick PowerPoint with just some information concerning what this set apart day is. Okay? So we're going to go through that in a moment. And I got one of the elders from the camp that's also on the line with me. He's about to come on shortly. But before I do that, family, I do want to just bring your attention to something real quick. I just want to bring your attention to something really quickly. Elder Zab, I'm going to bring you in. All right? Just mute your phone, King, all right? If your phone is not already muted. I just want to show you, brothers and sisters, something, because we are in perilous times. So it's important for me to show you, brothers and sisters, current events as they happen. I know sometimes you brothers and sisters try to escape some of these current events, so you really don't want to deal with it, but we're in it, so we have to deal with it. So we're not going to deal with it for a whole live stream tonight, but I have to. I'll be negligent if I didn't show you, brothers and sisters, this in case you didn't see it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's start off with this, right? How many of you brothers and sisters saw this article from CNN that came out today, as of 12 noon today, December 9th, 2020? Okay? Let's go ahead and let's read what this article is about, because this article is very relevant to every last person within the sound of my voice. It says allergy warnings for Pfizer/BioNTech vaccine after UK health workers with allergy history suffer reaction. So, brothers and sisters, you had some people that took the vaccine in the UK. And the minute they took the vaccine in the UK, they suffered allergic reactions immediately. This is what we've been talking about. This is what we've been talking about. These vaccines have not fully been tested to say that they're healthy for everybody. Let's go ahead and let's read the article. I don't want to improvise. Let's read the article real quick. It says, London, people with a significant history of allergic reactions should not be given the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus vaccine. UK health authorities said Wednesday after 2 healthcare workers experienced symptoms after receiving a shot the day before. The precautionary advice was given after the pair responded adversely following their shots on the first day of the massive vaccination rollout in the UK, National Health Service England said Wednesday. So the first day they got the vaccine, the first day they had adverse responses to it immediately. This is what we've been saying, right? Now check this out. Let's go ahead and let's read the second paragraph. The 2 staff members who both carried an adrenaline auto-injector and had a history of allergic reactions developed symptoms of anaphylactoid reactions after receiving the vaccine on Tuesday. Now, how many of you brothers and sisters know what an adrenaline auto-injector is? This right here, what an adrenaline auto-injector is. I did not. So I had to look that thing up. This is what you call an adrenaline auto-injector. Let me come here real quick. Let me show you guys an adrenaline auto-injector. It's stuff like this. These are what you call adrenaline auto-injectors. And what they did, so you brothers and sisters understand, is basically what happens is that if you take the vaccine and you have an allergic reaction and you start suffering from asphyxiation, like you can't breathe, you have to take this adrenaline auto-injector immediately in order to alleviate those symptoms. Here it is, family. You got to pay attention now. They're giving these adrenaline auto injectors to people because they know people are going to have adverse reactions. They knew that. That's the point. That's why they gave them these adrenaline auto injectors, because they fully expected people to have adverse reactions, especially people with allergies. Now, how many of you brothers and sisters walk around with adrenaline auto injectors? How many of you? So when this vaccine is released over here from Pfizer, you might have to go get one, family. If you have to take that vaccine, you might have to go get one, because people with allergies are having adverse reactions to this vaccine day one. I hope you brothers and sisters see that. So I just wanted to share that little bit of information with you brothers and sisters. We'll talk about that another time, because I didn't really bring you guys on here for that. But I wanted you brothers and sisters to see what's really going on. Like, you know, people call us conspiracy theorists. People say all types of stuff, right? But we're on here just giving you brothers and sisters information. And you do with the information whatever you see fit to do with the information. But it's our job to sound the alarm and warn you. You cannot take that vaccine without knowing what's in it, especially if you're a person that suffers from allergies. How do you know one of the active ingredients in that vaccine is not something that you are allergic to? And will you be walking around with an emergency auto injector to use if you start suffering from asphyxiation because you're having an allergic reaction? Y'all gonna be walking around with that? This is ESO and pseudoscience, man. It's crazy. Right, tell them, sis. We're not conspiracy theorists. We're conspiracy realists, because that's real. Before we go on any further, Elder, you want to say something, Zab? You want to add on anything to that?
Nah, mic check. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Nah, I just want to say, man, we got to be realistic, man. Jake right now don't even have jumper cables in their car. So who the hell gonna be walking around with some autoimmune injector? You know? But we got to leave it in the Most High hands. That's all.
And there
we
you
did
have
our job is waking our people up.
Our job is waking our people up, man. Our job is waking our people up. You know what I'm saying? That's the point. Hey, family, I need y'all to get these likes up some more. I need y'all to get these likes up some more, or dislike. Somebody already disliked the video. You know we got haters. That's a beautiful thing. Thank y'all for watching as well. I see my man, the Deacon Tuabaman, is in the building. Sisters of the Maccabees is in the building. Apostle Debar Malak is in the building. Right? Winsome Thomas is in the building. Okay? So I see everybody in here. Zahab, when you get a chance, before we get started, can you text the camp group chat and post the YouTube link in there for brothers, because brothers are going to say they didn't know I was live. So if you can do that, I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that, and I'll just continue to
Canada one done.
So yeah. So that's very, very important, family. All right? Let me see. Right. Judah Mourner said the CIA started that term. Hey, Masha, shalom to you. Shalom to Holy Saints and Apostles. Shalom to you. Okay. All right. So y'all done see me. So y'all don't need to see me right now. Just waiting for Elder Zahab to call. Let me know that he sent the information to the camp. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna breeze through really quickly. We're gonna breeze through the first 4 chapters of Maccabees, right? And I am going to add some slides from a PowerPoint. The PowerPoint really only addresses the first chapter of Maccabees. And I'm doing this for those of you brothers and sisters that are new to the faith. You may not be fully familiar with the Feast of Dedication and the history behind it. So, and why the reason it is that we commemorate it to this day. So I'm just going to briefly go over the Feast of Dedication from 1 Maccabees chapter 1 all the way to 1 Maccabees chapter 4. So the way this thing is going to work is that in chapter 1, I'm going to be showing you brothers and sisters some slides and just giving y'all a little bit of background history on some things that you may or may not know. And once we hit chapter 2 to chapter 4, we're going to pick up the pace and speed up because it's pretty much self-explanatory. Okay, but chapter 1 gives you like a background of everything that's going on to the point where we got our temple back and rededicated our temple. So there may be some information in this PowerPoint that you brothers and sisters are not aware of. So you do have a moment if you want to get a pen or a piece of paper to write some stuff down to do your own research. Or you can open up, if you're on your cell phone watching this, you can open up a notepad while you're watching this, and you can take down notes that way. Sometimes I find that that's easier, family, than having to go back and watch a whole video all over again. Not that I mind if y'all watch the whole video all over again, but sometimes it's easier just to take notes, and don't try to commit everything that I show y'all to memory, because it's a lot of stuff. I'm not going over a whole lot of stuff, but it might be some new stuff to some of you brothers and sisters that you never saw before. Zahab, we good?
Gone.
All praises to the Most High. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with this PowerPoint momentarily. Just give me 1 second, family. Just stop sharing for 1 second. I just want to see something really quickly. You know what? Let me also really quickly go ahead and share this on Facebook, because I know good and well that my people on Facebook are going to tell me that they didn't see it. I'm gonna put this in the Maccabees TV group in Facebook real quick, and then we're gonna get this cracking and get it over with. All right. Okay. Paste. Okay. Boom. All right. Nice and shared. Okay, let's go ahead and let's get this thing started. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen one more time. Let's do it this way. All right. All right. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. And I do so in the name of his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai, for allowing myself another year to live to see the Feast of Dedication. One of the things that I always tell people is, and by the way, we're not contentious about the date. Some brothers did it yesterday, some brothers is doing it tomorrow. Like, we ain't contentious about that. I'm just coming on here sharing with you brothers and sisters that may not be a part of anybody, might not be a part of any camp. You see what I'm saying? But you're Israelites. So I'm coming on here and sharing with you brothers instead of just keeping it to myself. So all of our holy days, right? Our high holy days are mentioned in Leviticus chapter 23. Those are our high holy days. But the Most High also has appointed feast days to us as well. Days that commemorate certain things, like Purim is a feast day. Dedication is a feast day, which is also called Hanukkah. It is a feast day. And all of our high holy days and our holy days all have a major significance. Like, we don't have days like how America has days that really have absolutely no meaning. Halloween is madness. Easter is pagan. Christmas is pagan. Mother's Day and Father's Day should be every day, not a day set aside on the calendar. Valentine's Day, pagan. And the list goes on and on. No real significance to the days that are here in this country, but yet this country has on their money, "In God we trust." But they don't trust in the God of the Bible because they don't celebrate the holy days that are in the Bible. Nor do the Christians. They just teach you that Christ did away with everything. Christ never told you he did away with nothing, but they say Christ nailed every goddamn thing to the cross. And now you have Christian-minded Israelites saying the same thing. All that stuff is madness. We're not going to get caught up in that stuff today. It's all madness. But I just wanted to say that, man. Our days have significance and meaning. That's the beauty of being an Israelite. Every holy day that we have has a significance to it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get started. The first thing that you want to know, for those of you that don't know, I'm speaking to everyone as though you don't know, even though most of you do. The holy day really should be called the Feast of Rededication of the Temple. Because Solomon, when he built the temple, actually did the first dedication of the temple. So anything subsequent or after Solomon's dedication would be a rededication. So this holy day that we are commemorating today, or this feast day, I should say, that we are commemorating today, is the rededication of the temple during the time of the Maccabees. But the temple was first dedicated by Solomon. Let's just go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read this part, Zahab, before I bring you in. So you can read about this in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 1 through 9, right? It says, now when Solomon had made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of the Lord filled the house. And the priest could not enter into the house of the Lord because the glory of the Lord had filled the house. And when all the children of Israel saw how the fire came down and the glory of the Lord upon the house, they bowed themselves with their faces to the ground upon the pavement and worshipped and praised the Lord, saying, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. Then the king and all the people offered sacrifices before the Lord. And King Solomon offered a sacrifice of 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the people dedicated the house of the Lord. There it is. And the priests waited on their offices. The Levites also with their instruments of music of the Lord, which David the king had made to praise the Lord, because his mercy endureth forever. When David praised by their ministry, and the priests sounded trumpets before them, and all Israel stood. So when we had our holy days and our feast days, our holy days and our feast days were joyous occasions, man. They were solemn because they represented something, but they were joyous. We were happy to do it. So we had all types of music and celebrations and blowing of trumpets and playing of instruments. It was a beautiful, joyous occasion. We try our best to imitate that, to recreate that in the holy days that we have when we do Passover and these other holy days. We try, but we can never actually do what our forefathers did, and we won't be able to do that on that level until we get into the kingdom. Then it's going to be glorious again, right? Right now, we're just rehearsing the righteous acts. All right, verse 7. Moreover, Solomon hallowed the middle of the court that was before the house of the Lord, for there he offered burnt offerings and the fat of the peace offerings, because the brazen altar which Solomon had made was not able to receive the burnt offerings and the meat offerings and the fat. Now I want you guys to look at that meat offerings. That's what's being spoken about in Colossians chapter 2, verse 16, when it speaks about judge not in meat or in drink. I've gone over that many times, not today. But those are talking about meat offerings, which were sacrifices. Okay? Verse 8. Also at the same time, Solomon kept the feast 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great congregation, from the entering in of Hamath unto the river of Egypt. And in the 8th day, they made a solemn assembly for to keep the dedication of the altar 7 days, and the feast 7 days. So you guys see I had that word dedication highlighted in red. When you look that word dedication up, the word there is, they have it as Hanukkah. Hanukkah, or as they say today, Hanukkah. That is how you say dedication in the Hebrew language. So Solomon was the first one to have a dedication. So anything subsequent to that, including what we're going to go over today, is actually a rededication of the temple. Just if we're going to be accurate, okay? Now let's move on to the next thing. We also see that our Lord, our King, our example, Yahushua, kept the Feast of Dedication. So if Yahushua kept the Feast of Dedication, we're keeping the Feast of Dedication. I speak for me and my house and my brothers. We're going to keep the Feast of Dedication just like Yahushua did. This is St. John chapter 10, verse 22 to 23. It says, and it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter. So if your Feast of Dedication is not falling sometime around winter, it should be cold like how it's cold right now, then you're not in the right season. Your calendar is off. And it says, and Yahushua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Now you guys can do your own research about Solomon's porch, but I have a demonstration on the screen about Solomon's porch. You guys can see it goes all the way around the temple. You guys see right here where it says Solomon's porch? It goes all the way around the temple, all the way around. So Yahushua was actually standing here during the Feast of Dedication, just so you brothers can have a visual of it. You guys can do your own research on that. It tells you that Solomon built a porch when you read 1 Kings chapter 6, verses 2 through 3. Also, when you read Acts chapter 5, verse 12, the apostles also were at Solomon's porch at one point as well, in the book of Acts chapter 5, verse 12. Okay? Now let's move on. All right, so Elder Zahab, whenever you're ready, could you read 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1?
Gone out of 1. Listen, while I'm reading, if there's an issue with my sound, just stop me and let me know if it's too low, too high, or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
The book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece.
That's it. So Alexander reigned the first over Greece. So what I did, you guys can see, is I inserted which Darius it was, because there were several Dariuses. So if you look to the right-hand side of your screen, right, that gives you a king's list from the time of Cyrus all the way to the time of Darius III. So just to be accurate, it was Darius III that Alexander smote. Okay? It was Darius III. Now, if you look at, just really quickly, this is just random for people that like information like myself. If you look at some of these rulers, you'll notice that some of them have the same dates, right? Like you see Cambyses the first. You see Smerdis, he's also 522. You see Cambyses the second, he's 522. You have Darius the first, 522. Just so you brothers know, sometimes in the beginning of their kingdom, there were disputes as to who was the true ruler. So you had some overlap sometimes where you had certain kings ruling certain portions of the kingdom at certain times, until finally that stopped happening when Xerxes came into power. Really, Darius the first, when he came into power, that was pretty much the end of that. But up until that time, sometimes you had several people ruling, the rulership was in dispute, etc., etc. That's just some side information I'm sharing with you guys. But to be accurate, this is Darius III that Alexander overthrew. Okay? Now, I want to give you guys a little bit of background on Alexander the Great. We used to back in the days call him Alexander the Greek, because we don't believe anything was great about him except he was a great you-know-what. He liked other men. Let's just put it like that. That's what was great about him. Other than that, nothing great about this guy. We used to call him Alexander the Greek, but for today we'll call him Alexander the Great. So I want to give you guys a little bit of information about him, right? So we read about Alexander in the book of Daniel several times. So I'm going to give you guys a quick look at Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. Now I want to pull something out of here to show you guys what I'm illustrating on the right. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions upon his head. Then he woke the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my visions by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. And four beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. And these four beasts represent four kingdoms that were going to rise up on the earth. Okay, now I'm going to jump down to verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. The beast also had four heads, and dominion was given unto it. Now you guys notice that I have that like a leopard highlighted. Now this is very important. I'm going to tell you brothers why. Anybody that tells you, because I've heard this recently, you don't need no other books, all you need is the Bible. The Bible doesn't name who this guy is in Daniel the 7th chapter. You really don't find out the name of this guy until you go to the Apocrypha, which is First Maccabees that we're reading today. But if you just read the regular Bible, the Bible doesn't identify who this guy is, but it gives you a hint. If it compared him to a leopard. So what I'm showing you guys on the screen right here, this is a very up in the upper left-hand corner. This is a very, very famous depiction, mural of Alexander the Greek, or the Great, fighting against Darius. But I only took a screenshot of the image with Alexander the Greek, right? I didn't take a picture of the whole thing. You guys can find it online, all right? This is a mural of Alexander the Great. And if you look at the blue arrow I have right here, you'll notice he's sitting on a horse that's covered in leopard. Alexander was known to have leopard anywhere on him. The reason why Alexander was known to do that, because Alexander was a follower of Dionysus. Right here in the lower right-hand corner, I believe this is Brad Pitt when he played Alexander. And notice the horse has on the leopard thing right here on top of it. Right here. You know where they got it from? They got it from this mural. See, Esau, he knows history. He knows that. He knows that. So to be accurate, they did it exactly the way that it is in the mural. They had the horse with the leopard on it, and they had the leopard right here on the horse, right? Now, Alexander was a big, let me read it right here. It says, Dionysus was one of Alexander the Great's childhood heroes. Dionysus is usually pictured with a leopard, which explains why in imagery and in movies, you'll see Alexander also depicted with something that's leopard on him as well. You guys will see that anywhere you go. And one of the reasons why that is because Alexander was a follower, or Dionysus was one of his heroes. And you see, I got Dionysus right here with the leopard and Dionysus right here with the leopard. So the prophet Daniel, he saw that and put it in there. And it's up to us to go and extrapolate the extra biblical sources and bring it home and make it plain for y'all. Hope everybody understands what it is I'm saying. Real quick, I'm going to come out of my PowerPoint just for a minute, right? And I'm going to do a quick search. I'm going to come to Google. I'm going to do a quick search, right? Let me see something. Come to Google images right here. You guys see this right here? I'm going to blow it up. Even when they make figurines and statues of Alexander, what do you guys see on the horse? What do you see? You see a leopard right there. You guys see it. So the historians, they know that. They know that. You see what I'm saying? So that's where, or what I should say, that the prophet Daniel was talking about. Daniel didn't give you a name. It's up to you to go look and figure out who that is. And now we know that that's Alexander. Why was Alexander always wearing that damn leopard thing or whatever? Why is he always depicted with it? Because he was, Dionysus is one of his heroes. And by the way, one last thing, Dionysus is also known throughout other by different names in other places. Dionysus is Asar, or as the Greeks call him, Osiris in Egypt. That's Dionysus. There's parallels there. Also, when you hear about Bacchus, Dionysus is also has a lot of parallels with Bacchus. Okay? Same guy. One second. Stop sharing for 1 second. 1 second. Just bear with me, family. We're going to get through it. 1 second. Just got to fix something. Bear with me 1 second. We're going to get right back to it. Right back to it. Apostle DeBar Malak said he's riding naked on a horse. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty darn more. What you expect? What do we expect from them, right? All right, let's go back in. Sorry about that, y'all. I just had to take care of something real quick. Let's go back in. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the, let's go continue from this current slide. Let's go to the next slide. All right, brothers and sisters, this is new information probably to a lot of you. And I told my camp about this today, and they was like, they was shocked when I said it. Because I don't think they ever heard it either, because, you know, like I got so much running through my mind sometimes, like, you know, I forget things. But it came back to me as I was putting this together. The slide is called Alexander and the High Priests, right? This is from the works of Josephus. Josephus, we know, is an Israelite historian, all right? In the book of Josephus, Josephus makes a very, very interesting claim concerning Alexander the Great. I have it highlighted right here. I'm going to read this claim for you guys. Check this out. I find this to be interesting, right? Let's start down here. So Alexander came into the land. I'm going to give you guys the background. And by the way, before I go any further, let me say this. This is the copy of Josephus I have. Now, there are updated versions since this copy. This is an old copy that I have. The cover of Josephus doesn't even look like this anymore. So, because I know how the enemies of Israel do. They watch my presentations, they go get the book, and then the page number doesn't correlate, and you're like, I made it up. So you can clearly see I took this image with my cell phone. So the page number may not correlate if you don't have this version of Josephus. If you have an updated version of Josephus, it might be a different page. But I'm going to tell you guys how to find it. You go to the part in Josephus where it says from Alexander to Antiochus Epiphanes. You will be able to find that. It shouldn't be hard to find. You can find that in the table of contents. You go to where it says the history from Alexander to Antiochus Epiphanes, and then you'll just have to look for this quote. Let's go ahead and let's read this quote right here. It says, I'm going to start from the highlighted portion. For Alexander, when he saw the multitude at a distance in white garments, while the priests stood with fine linen clothing. So when Alexander came into the land, the people came out and met him in white garments, and the Levite priests, they came out and met him in linen. And the high priest was in purple and scarlet clothing. They came out to meet Alexander when he came, with his mitre on his head, having the golden plate whereupon the name of God was engraved. He approached by himself and adored that name, and first saluted the high priest. So Alexander went and saluted the Israelite high priest when he came into the land. He came to them with respect. A lot of y'all don't know that. Let's come over here to the second portion of the highlighted version. Check this out. And when he had said this to Parmenio and had given the high priest his right hand, the priest ran along by him, and he came into the city. And when he went into the temple, he offered sacrifice to God according to the high priest's direction. So when Alexander came in, they brought him into the temple, and they told him that he needed to make a sacrifice. And it's going to tell you why. He offered sacrifice to God according to the high priest's direction, and magnificently treated both the high priest and the priests. And when the book of Daniel was shown to him, wherein Daniel declared that one of the Greeks should destroy the empire of the Persians, he supposed that himself was the person intended. Brothers, according to the historian Josephus, when Alexander came into the city, they brought him into the temple, told him to make a sacrifice, then they opened the book of Daniel and showed him himself and said, that's you. Did y'all know that? According to Josephus, they said, this is you. And he was glad. He was then glad. He dismissed the multitude from the present, but the next day he called them to him and bade them to ask what favors they pleased of him, whereupon the high priest desired that they might enjoy the laws of their forefathers. So they asked him and said, listen, man, you that guy, you about to conquer the Persians, you're going to conquer us. We're just asking you to allow us to keep our laws and might pay no tribute on the 7th year. He granted all they desired, and when they entreated him that he would permit the Jews in Babylon and Media to enjoy their own laws also, he willingly promised to do hereafter what they desired. Okay? Now I want to keep reading, even though it's not highlighted. And when he said to the multitude that if any of them would enlist themselves in his army on this condition, that they should continue under the laws of their forefathers and live according to them, he was willing to take them with him. Many were ready to accompany him in his wars. Do you ever see that? That is very, very, very important. What that's showing you is that you had a lot of Israelites. This is before the Maccabees. You had a lot of Israelites when Alexander came in, hundreds of years before Antiochus. When he came in, a lot of Israelites became Hellenized right then and there, because a lot of them joined Alexander's army and fought with him. And that was the real beginning of a lot of our people under the Greeks starting to go away from their customs. You had some of the people that still kept the customs, and you had some of them that joined this army immediately. And throughout generations just started going off. I gotta stop for a second. I want to make sure that I gotta stop for a second. I gotta come to the chat. I want to make sure I'm clear. I don't want to lose nobody. I know some of this stuff is new. If everybody's okay, put 1 in the chat. If everybody's okay, put 1 in the chat. Let me know we good. I don't want to lose nobody. I know some of this stuff is new. Okay, all praises. All praises. I see my man Ambassador Malak in the building. All praises, King. Yep. All right, let's get back in it. Just wanted to make sure that y'all were good. Let's go ahead and get back in it. I ain't gonna keep cutting y'all. I ain't gonna keep cutting the wisdom, family. I just gotta make sure that y'all with me and y'all are okay. Okay. This is what we Lines of Israel do behind the scenes when in classes. This is what we do. I don't normally share this stuff with you guys, but this is what we go in. All right, let's pick it up from here. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Now, remember, remember on the right hand side, you guys see right here, where my arrow is. Let's look at it again. The high priest showed Alexander himself in the book of Daniel. You guys see that, right? Now there are several scriptures. It doesn't say which one. There are several scriptures that he possibly could have shown them, or they could have shown him all of them. I don't know. Let's go back a little bit. They could have showed him this one, Daniel chapter 7, verse 6, about the leopard, right? Or they could have showed him this one. This is Daniel chapter 8, verses 21 and 22. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. Now, I don't need to break that down because this stuff is also in 1 Maccabees, which is what we're dealing with today. So I don't need to break that down. That's self-explanatory. It's going to come up again in the book of Maccabees. They could have also showed Alexander this. This is Daniel chapter 11, and I'll start from verse 1. Also in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood up to confirm and to strengthen him. And now I will show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall store up all the realm of Grecia. And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided towards the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity. Meaning Alexander did not pass the kingdom down to any of his children. It was passed down to the generals instead. Now, according to the historians, Alexander had a son, Alexander the 4th, but that child died. That child was born after Alexander died. A couple of months after he died, that child was born. By that time, the kingdom had already been divided amongst the 4 generals, according to history. So that's what the Bible means when it says not to his posterity, meaning not to his children or his kin. It was passed on instead to his friends or his generals. Okay? So these are possibly some of the scriptures that the priest could have showed Alexander. I don't know, because the scripture, Josephus doesn't say, but I just thought it was very interesting to note that according to the book of Josephus, Josephus tells you that the priest actually showed Alexander the book of Daniel and said that that was him. I thought that was interesting. I always think that's interesting to me. I don't know. Also, this is random. I'm just want to show you, brothers and sisters, something. This will come up later on in the book of Maccabees. I want to show you, brothers and sisters, something, though, right? When we were under the Greeks, we did everything the Greeks did. All right? Everything that the Greeks were doing, we was doing, right? So you guys know in the book of Maccabees, it tells you that we participated in like the game of discus and all types of stuff. Another thing that we did too as Israelites when we were in Greece, we were also into this whole equestrian thing. You guys see all this horse racing and the jockeys and stuff like that? We was doing that in Greece. All right? This is something called the Jockey of Abomination, right? And it's a statue that comes from the time period of about 150 to 140 BCE of a horse and a jockey. The guy, the little dude on the jockey, that's a black dude. That's an Israelite. You guys can look this up yourself. It's called the Jockey of Abomination, right? It was discovered in 1928, and it was a horse, a boy, and a god. Because this stuff all goes into paganism, and they would have these statues inside their sanctuaries to their gods. So the reason why I have that scripture there about us being led away to dumb idols and we were Gentiles, because we literally were. We just saw that from the time Alexander came in, we joined his army right away. And as time went on and elapsed, we got involved in all the stuff the Greeks were doing. All of it. So those Gentiles, those Greeks that you're reading about in the New Testament, those are Israelites who had been discontinued from their heritage for hundreds of years, from Alexander on down. And then when Antiochus came into power, he really put the hammer down, as we're about to read now. Okay? So that's enough on that. Elder Zahab, continue reading from 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 2. Continue reading.
Con, the book of 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 2. And many... There's an echo, King.
Salaki, that's my fault. Give me 1 second. I guess I got to mute myself every time. I'm gonna mute myself. Wait, let me mute myself real quick. Salakia. Stop at verse 6. All right, read from 2 to 6. All right, go ahead.
Khan, the first book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verses 2 through 6. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he would die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had them brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive.
So, all right, Con, all praise. Now, so let's get back into this. So, let's start from this current slide. So, these are the 4 servants, or as we read in the book of Daniel, it always mentions 4 guys that were with Alexander. These are them, right? You have Lysimachus, you have Cassander, you have Ptolemy, and you have Seleucus. These are the 4 guys that his kingdom was parted amongst, right? Now, the 2 guys on the left, Lysimachus and Cassander, irrelevant. Irrelevant. You don't really read much concerning the scriptures and them. Irrelevant. The 2 guys that you read about in the scriptures is the 2 on the right-hand side, Ptolemy and Seleucus. Those are the 2 main characters that you have to focus on. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. Now, when you guys look at a map of how the kingdom was distributed, that's pretty much how Alexander's kingdom was distributed amongst the 4 generals. Now, what I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, and I'm not going to go over it in this PowerPoint, this is in another PowerPoint I'm going to be doing in the academy, and also, I'll probably come and do it on here at some point eventually, because I think it's important for all Israel to see it, but I'm going to do it with the new brothers first that's in the camp. When you look at Seleucus, the lands that he has, when you guys do a little bit of research, you're going to realize the lands that Seleucus had, that's where a lot of the churches was that Paul was writing letters to and visiting. Also, when you look at the 7 churches in Revelations, they're also, a lot of them are located in that area that Seleucus was ruling. So we were there, following Greek customs. We were there. That's the reason why the Most High had to have the Apostle Paul and others go there and teach our people, because they were there. I just wanted to make that little point real quick. Let's move on. Now, I just said something. Let me come back real quick, right? So I told you guys that these 2 guys on the left right here, Lysimachus and Cassander, they're pretty much irrelevant. The main 2 guys that history focuses on, especially when it comes to the Bible, is Ptolemy and Seleucus. Now, Ptolemy and Seleucus, the Ptolemaic dynasty and the Seleucid dynasty had a lot of conflict. Historically, that conflict is known as the Syrian Wars. That's what it's known as. When you're reading in the book of 1 Maccabees, the 1st chapter, it's making some allusions to this time period also. It's known as the Syrian Wars. The Syrian Wars were fought between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids. The Ptolemies and the Seleucids. And when we read in 1 Maccabees, the 1st chapter, you're going to read about Antiochus wanting to go and fight Egypt. That's part of the Syrian Wars. Okay? All right. Let's go to the next one. Elder Zahab, you can pick it up from read 7, 8, and 9.
Khan, verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
Con, all praises. So that's what I'm showing you guys right here, right? This is a list of the Seleucid dynasty and the Ptolemaic dynasty, or the Ptolemid dynasty. These are the two ones that you're reading about back and forth in Daniel in the 11th chapter. This is who you're reading about. Like I said, Lysimachus and Cassander are irrelevant for the most part. Okay? You're reading about a lot of the conflicts, the marriages, the this, the that in Daniel's 11, right? So the scriptures say, so did their sons after them many years. So you guys could see all the different. Now, what I want you to notice about the Seleucid and the Ptolemaic line is that the Ptolemies kept that title Ptolemy all the way through. But when you look at the Seleucid line, you notice the name toggles back and forth between Seleucus and Antiochus. And sometimes you have Demetrius, you have Alexander, you have Typhon. But the main ones that you see there is Seleucus and Antiochus. So what I'm trying to show you, brothers, is that when you read about Antiochus in 1 Maccabees, the 1st chapter, you're reading about the Seleucid line. He's from the Seleucid line. I need you brothers and sisters to understand that. Okay? All right. Read verse 9.
Verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
Come on.
Verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
So now we're putting a face to it. Antiochus is from a Seleucid line of kings. Okay? Read on.
Verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon, verse 14, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
So the uncircumcision in a place of exercise, brothers and sisters, they built a gymnasium there. So let's start from the current slide. You guys can see, I got to spend too much time on it. You guys can see that word gymnasium, when you really go deep into the word, it means a place where they trained naked. That was a custom that they had. And it makes perfect sense, brothers and sisters, because I don't know how many of you brothers and sisters go to the gym, but I do. And that spirit of the ancient Greeks is in all these damn gyms. It doesn't matter what gym I go to, no matter what state I'm in, wherever, you always have one nasty dude that's walking around the damn locker room with his wood swinging back and forth. Like anybody wants to see that thing. It's crazy. I used to be a personal trainer at Bally's Total Fitness years ago. In the club that I worked at was actually on 23rd Street in Manhattan, which borders, like all the way downtown Manhattan. And we used to have to literally throw people out the gym because you had a certain persuasion of people that would actually go into the sauna. And these dudes would be in the sauna having intercourse in the gym. And then the gym manager would call the trainers, and we had to go and physically remove these people out the gym. That was going on. So that same spirit of the ancient Greeks is up in this kingdom today, man. America is just Greece, Rome, Egypt, and everything all over again. You can continue, Elazar.
So, other one, would you suggest our people leave the gym? Because a lot of our people, they take their stress out, they go to the gym, they work out. Myself, I work out at home, but what would you say to our people? Should they leave the gym or stay in it, but be in a spiritual mind when they go?
That would be hypocrisy, because I'm not leaving the gym. Hey man, I try to, I work out, and I don't live far from a gym. Like, I literally live about 10 minutes from a gym. So I work out and I go home and take my shower, man. I don't even really go in the locker room. I go to the gym dressed. When I'm done working out, I drive down the block home and I take my shower there. I can't do it, man. I can't do it because I don't have the capacity to work out at home. Like, my workouts are not the same than when I'm in the gym. So I like to go to the gym. I just don't go in the locker room. That's the bottom line. You can continue, King. Let's try and speed it up a little bit. You continue.
Khan, verse 16. This is the book of Maccabees, First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 16. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of two realms.
Right. So let's deal with that. Let me come back and share my screen again. So Antiochus thought to reign over Egypt. That's what we was talking about before, the wars between the Antiochuses and the Seleucids. So here's Antiochus here, and he wanted to, let me make it a little bigger, go from the current slide. Here's Antiochus here, and he wanted to go to war with Ptolemy VI. So these guys were fighting, okay? Just so you guys know. And this is real history. This is not pseudo history. This is real history in the Bible, which is part of the reason why they took it out. That's out.
Verse 17. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Jerusalem, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the vial, and the crown, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and the gold, and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned. The virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she sat in the marriage chamber. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the habitations thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came into Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit, for they had given him credence. He fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel.
So let me just say something about that real quick, right? So Antiochus spoke deceitful words, and then fell upon Jerusalem and smote it and destroyed much people. That's the opposite of what we read earlier that Alexander did. When Alexander came into the city, he was peaceable. They showed him himself in the book of Daniel, and he allowed Israel to continue to keep their laws, just like the Persians had before him. Allowed us to keep our laws and stuff like that. By the time you get down to these wicked Antiochuses and Ptolemies later on, they put an end to that thing. All right, go ahead.
Khan, verse 30. And speak peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. Verse 31. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them.
So a lot of Israelites fled out of Jerusalem because of all this killing and everything that was going on of our people. Go ahead.
Gone. Verse 36. For it was a
38.
Oh man, verse 30. Slack it. Verse 38. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Verse 39. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath.
Now remember, I showed y'all earlier that a lot of the Jews, when Alexander came in, a lot of the Jews joined his army then. But you had some holdouts. Remember, the priests had asked Alexander and said, well, hey, will you allow us to keep our laws of our forefathers, so forth and so on? And he said yes. And he said any of the Israelites that joined his army, if it was up to them, they could keep their laws as well. Now we all know the majority of our people, if they have a chance not to keep the Most High's commandments, we know our history. They didn't do it. Now when Antiochus comes on the scene, the holdouts, he's telling them, you guys got to become Greeks too. The ones that didn't voluntarily join the Greek army and fight with them and follow the Greek customs, now he's forcing the Greek customs on the rest of the people. That's what he's doing. Go ahead.
Gone. Verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
And that would happen over generations, right? Because the first generation will be forced or Hellenized, forced to follow Greek customs, and out of fear, by watching what happened to their brethren that were killed and slain, they would teach their children to be Greeks. And then over time, over generations, what happens? You forget the laws and the ordinances. Just like our people today. You can't tell them that they're Israelites. You can't tell them. As far as they're concerned, the people over in Israel, those are the Jews. We African. We West African. That's it. Same thing. Go ahead.
Khan, I just want to bring out, that's the same thing they did in slavery also, because they would take the strong men and kill them, if not violate them in front of everybody. And the woman would be scared and teach the children whatever massa say they want them to learn, and then get them indoctrinated throughout generations. So it's the same thing on, it's like stuck on repeat, so to speak.
Yep.
Verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor. Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side.
So one moment now, let's come back to the PowerPoint for a second. Let's come back to the PowerPoint for 1 second, and let's pick up where we left off. Okay. All right. This is the abomination of desolation is first mentioned in the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verse 31. Right. An arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. This is Daniel prophesying about what Antiochus eventually did. So now we see in the book of 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 54, that the abomination of desolation was set up upon the altar. Now, when you do a little bit of research, right, the scholars and the historians tell us that the abomination of desolation that they set upon the altar was a statue of Zeus. So they put a statue of Zeus on the holy altar in the temple. And for those of y'all that don't know, just like Dionysus goes back to ancient gods, Zeus goes back to ancient gods too. One of the ancient gods that a lot of historians and scholars say that Zeus goes back to is the god Baal that you read about in the Old Testament. So the Jewish Encyclopedia is one source, and I have other history books that say the same thing and corroborate this as well. That abomination of desolation, that statue that was placed on the altar, the idols that were placed on the altar, was actually Zeus. All right, so I just want to let you guys know that now we have a name to it, because remember, Daniel didn't have a name for it. He just called it an abomination, right? But now we know what that abomination, what that idol was that was set upon the altar. It was a statue of Zeus. Okay? Continue reading, bro.
Gone. Verse 55. And burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. Verse 56. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. And whosoever was found with any the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death.
Okay, so hold on a second. Now, this is just random, and I threw this into the PowerPoint because I think it's important. And I have a whole lesson on this. I'm not going to call it a heresy. It's these atheists, these anti-Bible people. They keep asking us for an original manuscript of the Bible, and I keep telling them that's a fallacy from the beginning. There were always multiple copies of our records. That's what we had scribes for. So right here is one example, and that's why I highlighted it, because it's a part of the lesson. I can highlight it right here. Here's an example where you were reading about multiple people having copies of our laws. So they was going around looking for people that had it. So there was not just one person with it. Many people with it. Many scribes with it. That was a profession that was passed down many times from father to son. So this whole thing about there being an original manuscript is crazy. And the Bible was always evolving. Books were always being added. As prophets came and prophets went, more books were being added. And the scribes would make copies of those. As a matter of fact, I think I showed it on here. I know I showed it to the camp. I think I showed it on here. One of the things that Moses instructed Joshua to do when he got into the land was to erect a copy of the Ten Commandments. He told Joshua to do that, a copy. So there's no such, this whole original manuscript is a fallacy. And that's it on that. Pick it up from verse 58, bro.
Con, verse 58. Thus did they, by their authority unto the Israelites, every month, to as many as were found in the cities. Now, when the 5th and 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised.
We had some sisters that was on point. They upheld their customs to the point that they were killed because of it. They circumcised their children, and they killed the babies too. Keep reading.
Verse 61, and they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them.
So the people that circumcised the children were killed, the mother was killed, and the baby was killed. And what did this do? After certain generations of this happening and our people seeing this trauma, just like the brother said, it happened to us here in slavery, the same thing. After a certain amount of time, certain generations had passed, our people were totally removed from the law because they were scared out of it, out of fear. Read on.
God, verse 62, howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing.
There's always been a remnant. So the Most High always leaves a remnant. Most High told Elijah that. There's always a remnant of people that's not going to sell out. Even in this society, there's a remnant. Now all of us believe that we're that remnant that's not selling out and the rest of our people are selling out. But you know when you're going to know if you're really part of that remnant that's not going to sell out Israel? You know when you're going to know? When the tribulation hits, for real. Like when they start telling you you can't, like with this vaccine thing coming, you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't have a job, you can't this, you can't that, then we're going to see. When they start coming and locking people up and putting people in jail that believe in this truth, then we're going to see. It's great to read this stuff and see what our forefathers did, but you have to ask yourself, do you have the temerity to stand for righteousness the way our forefathers did? That's a question, and nobody can answer that until you are in that position. Everybody's going to say, of course I do, till you're in that position. You got to pray for the Most High to give us all that strength to stand for him in that day. Continue reading, brother.
God, verse 62 again, howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore they rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was very great wrath upon Israel.
So these meats that they didn't want to defile themselves with was unclean meats, and in many cases even clean animals that were being sacrificed to these idols, which became a problem or a point of contention in the church at Corinth. You read about that in Corinthians. That became a point of contention later on, but not today, y'all. Go ahead to chapter 2, bro.
Con, hey King, I was looking in the comments. They say something about volume keeps fading in and out. Is that my volume or is that your volume?
I don't know. Let's
ask the people if everything is still up.
Hey family, so I'm gonna stop sharing for 1 second. Talk to me about the volume is okay. Put one. Volume is okay. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but my man Hostile MGTOW, he's a reliable dude. So I don't know. He's saying it's me. All right. I'll try to do better, bro. I don't know this. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Some of the perils are going live, King. Yeah, it is what it is. Chapter 2?
Yeah, let's jump over to chapter 2, bro.
This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 2, verse 1. In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Johanan, called Cadiz, Simon, called Dasi, Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar, called Avaran, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphas.
So stop right there just for 1 second. So these are the sons of Mattathias, right? So just real quick. This is what's known as the Hasmonean dynasty, as some people call it, or the Maccabean dynasty, or whatever like that. So you have Mattathias, you have Judas, you have Jonathan, you have Simon, you have John Hyrcanus, Aristobulus, Alexander, Alexandra, Aristobulus again, Hyrcanus II, and Antigonus. You will read just as an aside. Hyrcanus is one of the people that converted the Herodians. The Herodians were converted. The reason why you had the Herods dealing with that whole Judaism thing, or thought they were Jews, because they were not. We know the Herodians, the Herods, they were Edomites. But their foreparents have been converted to Judaism forcibly by Hyrcanus. That's just an aside. It really has nothing to do with anything right now, but I'm just letting y'all know that. So that's that. All right, Zab, you can continue.
Khan, nah, that's good to know, because then later on, when people start reading about the Herodian dynasty and whatnot, they might think or get confused. But you're right, they're Edomites.
Right.
Khan, verse 6. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation hath not had a part in her kingdom, and gotten of her spoils? All her ornaments were taken away, and a free woman she's become a bondslave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end therefore shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in the city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends. And thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
Stop for 1 second. I ain't going to hold you long. That should sound familiar. If you've been an avid watcher of this channel, that should sound familiar. Did I not show you, brothers and sisters, that when they push this vaccine, they're going to be using what they call familiar community people, like celebrities, like pastors, like sports figures. They're going to be using them to convince you to take that vaccine. You got your man Curious George, aka Barack Obama, that said that he'll take the vaccine on television. Same thing. And believe me, they go to these athletes and these pastors and these different people, and they make them promises. If you go ahead and you push this on the people and convince the people to do this, then I'll do this for you later on. You know what I'm saying? Behind the scenes, backdoor handshakes, whatever you want to call it. That's what they do. Well, they try to do this with Judas in them. We're going to see what happened. Excuse me, with Mattathias in them. We're going to see what happened. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, Thou all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left.
We ain't selling out. We're not selling out. That's what he said. Go ahead.
Verse 23. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Which thing, when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to the judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of the Most High, like as Phinehas did unto Zambri the son of Salom.
So Mattathias was zealous, man, for the Most High's commandments, and when he even saw somebody else breaking the commandment, he was moved with zeal to deal with that person. Now we can't do that in this day and time, but that shows you that the zeal they had. You know who else had that zeal? Ezra and Nehemiah. Same thing. Go ahead.
Hey, let me just say this. How many of y'all remember this brother named Micah Johnson? You know, remember that brother King?
Yeah.
And at the time, he was enraged about Edomite cops killing our people. And he just got the zeal on him. You never know. The Most High put the spirit on him. He went out and he started, you know, doing what he had to do. And if you remember, they had to take a robot to take him out. That was the first time they used a robot to kill a so-called civilian or citizen. So you never know. The Most High could put the zeal on brothers in these last days to do certain things. I mean, we're not going to condone it and preach it, but the Most High is mighty. He could do whatever he want to do.
Okay.
Verse 27. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
That's similar to what we do when we go on the highways and the byways. We tell our people who same thing. Follow us as we follow the Most High and His Son Yahweh Shah Christ. Come on.
Verse 28. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city.
They was on the run. They was on the move because they knew they couldn't stay where they was. They became pilgrims. Guess what? In the book of 2nd Ezra, it says that some of us are going to have to do that in these last days too. That's why I keep asking, are we really prepared for what's about to happen? Some of us are going to have to become pilgrims too and leave everything behind that you have. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 29. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. Now when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandments were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. Verse 33. And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that they put us to death wrongfully. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people.
That's why I don't understand how it is. We read about these other nations. When they came against us, they killed men, women, and children. So I don't understand why it is when we say that the Most High is going to kill them, men, women, and children, like he did in Egypt. He's going to do that here. I don't understand why people get emotional. It happened to us. It's going to happen to them. Go ahead.
Verse 39. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, Whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians.
Stop. Does everybody know who the Assyrians are? Who the Assyrians are? Out of this order of what you call the Assyrians would eventually come what became the Pharisees later on. This is where the Pharisees would come from later on, according to historical records. So, brothers and sisters, when you hear people running around calling somebody a Pharisee, it's really in ignorance because you don't even know the order. The Pharisaical order started off righteous. Now, eventually, like most other things in Israel, it became corrupt, like other things, of course. But you still, even during the time of Christ and after, had righteous Pharisees too, like Nicodemus, like Gamaliel, like others. So it's really a stupid thing to even say. And secondly, as a brother mentioned to me the other day, if you want to call somebody a name because they want to keep the commandments and keep the holy days, you'd be better off calling somebody a Sadducee. Really, but that's neither here nor there. Read verse 42 again.
Verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath, but the rest fled to the heathen for succor. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars, and what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They persuaded also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles, and out of the hand of kings, neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now, when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, Now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. So shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name.
Which they have now, which is why we're commemorating dedication, the rededication to this day.
Khan.
So they have a great name. This is exactly what happened. Come on.
Khan, call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness?
Because all the promises the Most High promised Abraham didn't inherit none of that stuff. I was talking to a brother about that earlier today. But he believed, and it was imputed to him for righteousness. Come on.
Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phineas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, abstained the covenant of an everlasting obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Yahushua, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel.
Joshua. Just so
exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There were many Yahushuas.
Right.
Verse 56, Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne for an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, Mishael, by believing were saved out of the flame. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. And thus consider ye thoughtful all ages, that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, nor his glory shall be, for his glory shall be dung and worms. Today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into into his dust, and his thought is come to nothing. Wherefore, ye my sons, be valiant, and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law, for by it shall ye obtain glory. And behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. He shall be a father unto you. As for Judas Maccabeus, he hath been mighty and strong, even from his youth up. Let him be your captain, and fight the battle for the people.
So everybody has an office. Everybody doesn't have to do the same thing. Everybody doesn't have the same gifts. Everybody has an office. The father knew what son had what gift, and he set the whole thing up and advised, right? That's how we have to be today. Everybody has their gifts, right? So you come, if you're a part of a congregation or body or the nation in general, whatever gifts the Lord gave you, utilize your gifts for the betterment of your people. If you're in a position of leadership in Israel and you perceive that people in your congregation have gifts, even if it's a gift that you yourself don't have, then you cultivate that gift in that brother or that sister for the betterment of the nation. Don't be jealous of it. Don't hate on it. You cultivate it and help that gift to grow for the benefit of us all. You understand? Read on.
Verse 67. Take also unto you all those that observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law. So he blessed them, and was gathered to his fathers. And he died in the 146th year, and his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers at Modin. And all Israel made great lamentation for him.
Should jump over to chapter 3.
Chapter 3,
Yep.
verse 1. Then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead, and all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that helped with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. Verse 3. So he got his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him, and he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. In his acts he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked, and sought them out, and burnt up those that vexed his people. Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. He grieved also many kings, and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them, and turning away wrath from Israel, so that he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth, and he received unto him such as were ready to perish. Then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together, and a great host out of Samaria, to fight against Israel. Which thing when Judas perceived, he went forth to meet him, and so he smote him, and slew him. Many also fell down slain, but the rest fled. Wherefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius' sword also, and therewith he fought all his life long. Now when Siron, a prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude and company of the faithful to go out with him to war, he said, I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, for I will go fight with Judas and them that are with him, who despise the king's commandment. Verse 15. So he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of the ungodly to help him, and to be avenged of the children of Israel. And when he came near to the going up of Beth Horon, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company, who, when they saw the host coming to meet him, said unto Judas, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great a multitude and so strong, seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day? Unto whom Judas answered, It is no hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few, and with the Most High of heaven it is all one, to deliver with a great multitude or a small company. For the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of an host, but strength cometh from heaven. They come against us in much pride and iniquity to destroy us, and our wives and children, and to spoil us. But we fight for our lives and our laws. Wherefore the Lord himself will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, be ye not afraid of them. Now as soon as he had left off speaking, he leapt suddenly upon them, and so Saran and his hosts were overthrown before him. And they pursued them from the going down of Beth Horon unto the plains, where were slain about 800 men of them, and the residue fled into the land of the Philistines. Then began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and an exceeding great dread to fall upon the nations round about him, insomuch as his fame came unto the king, and all nations talked of the battles of Judas. Now when King Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. He opened also his treasure, and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he should need them. Nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasures failed, and that the tributes in the country were small because of dissension and plague, which he had brought upon the land, and taken away the laws which had been of old time, he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before, for he had abounded above the kings that were before him. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to give into Persia. He determined to go into Persia, there to take the tributes of the countries and to gather much money. So he left Lysias, a nobleman, and one of the blood royal, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt, and to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again. Moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his forces and the elephants, and gave him charge of all things that he would have done, as also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem, to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to take away their memorial from that place, and that he should place strangers in all their quarters and divide their land by lot. So the king took the half of the forces that remained and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year, and having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries. Then Lysias chose Ptolemy, the son of Dorymenes, and Nicanor, and Gorgias, mighty men of the king's friends. And with them he sent 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and to destroy it, as the king commanded. So they went forth with all their power, and came and pitched by Emmaus in the plain country. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much with servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves.
See that? Go ahead.
A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. Now when Judas and his brethren saw that miseries were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, for they knew how the king had given commandments to destroy the people and utterly abolish them, they said one to another, Let us restore the decayed estate of our people, and let us fight for our people and the sanctuary. Then was the congregation gathered together, that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mashpah over against over against Jerusalem, for in Mashpah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes and laid upon the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
So even from the time of the Greeks, they were seeking to put their images in our records. Okay? Because you have to remember that when Solomon built the temple the first time and stuff like that, you know, there was images in there. There was cherubims, there was all types of stuff up in the temple, right? I don't necessarily believe in the book of the law there were any images in there, no. But the heathen, when they got a hold of our books of the law, they started putting their images in there, just like the Roman Catholic Church does today and the Christian Church does today. They put Caesar Borgia and all his family in our records and say that those are the prophets, those are the apostles. Same thing, nothing new under the sun whatsoever, nothing new. Go ahead.
Hey, Elder, what's the word? Iconoclasm?
Iconoclasm.
Right. So they did that even throughout the so-called what's that period in throughout Europe, the Enlightened period, what they call that?
Renaissance. Yeah, the Renaissance.
The Renaissance, exactly, when they were repainting our forefathers in different images like unto the heathens. So same thing. Verse 49. They brought also the priests' garments and the first fruits and the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. Then cried they with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, What shall we do with these? And whither shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O power, be our help? Then sounded they with trumpets and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands and over hundreds and over fifties and over tens. But as for such as were building houses, or had betrothed wives, or were planting vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return, every man to his own house according to the law.
Right.
Verse 57. So the camp removed and pitched upon the south side of Emmaus. And Judas said, Arm yourselves and be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary. For it is better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people and our sanctuary. Nevertheless, as the will of our power is in heaven, so let him do.
Right. Now I want to say something while we go to chapter 4. And chapter 4 is the last chapter that we're going to do. I want to say something, right, that's very important. You can clearly see that when these calamities came upon the people, one of the things that they did is they fasted and prayed. And that's something that within the Israelite community, a lot of us don't do enough. We don't fast enough and we don't pray enough. Like every man and woman has to examine themselves to really see. And we're coming into a perilous time right now. So all of our prayer lives have to get better. We've got to be praying to the Most High constantly to protect us, to guide us in the right direction. And also, brothers and sisters should be fasting more for a lot of reasons. Fasting more because there's going to be food shortages. You have to accustom yourself to maybe not eating for a day or two. And you don't have to fall out and drop and keel over and drop dead because you didn't have a food in a day and a half, whatever like that, because you have to preserve or conserve food. It gives your organs a chance to rest. And also on a higher spiritual level, when you're fasting, you're denying your body something your body needs, which is food. Your body needs that, and you're able to deny your flesh what your flesh needs. So if you're able to do that with something that your flesh needs, you're also able to deny your flesh those lusts of the flesh that we all fall victim to that we should not. You're able to do it. You're able to do it. Go ahead. Chapter 4, verse 1.
First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 1. Then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and thousands of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night, to the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guides. Hey, Salakia King, did I read that right? And the men of the fortress were his guides?
What verse are you in?
I'm in verse 2.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
So when it says men of the fortress were his guides, that's safe to say, was they sell out Israelites? Because how would they guide them? Verse 3. Now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant men with him, that he might smite the king's army, which was at Emmaus, while as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. In the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas, and when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains. For, said he, these fellows flee from us. But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. And they saw the camp of the heathen, and that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen, and that these were expert of war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes, and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore they went up out of the camp to battle, but they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. Howbeit all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them at Gazaria, and unto the plains of Idumea and Azotus and Jamnia, so that they were slain of them upon 3,000 men. This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them, and said to the people, be not greedy of the spoils, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. Then Gorgias and his host were here by us in the mountain. But stand ye now against our enemies, and overcome them, and after this ye may boldly take the spoils. As Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain, who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their hosts to fight, and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done. When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also that the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight, they fled everyone into the land of strangers. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea and great riches. After this they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever. Thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. Now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysias what had happened, who, when he heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were come to pass. The next year, therefore, following, Lysias gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethsura, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. And when he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, Blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest the host of strangers into hands of Jonathan the son of Saul and his armor bearer. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power of horse and horsemen. Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So they joined battle, and there were slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and manliness of Judah's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochus and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea. Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Sion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profane, and the gates burnt up, and shrubs growing in the court as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried toward heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, and such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bared out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law, and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick, and the altar of burnt offerings, and of incense, and the table. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table, and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 5th and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning, and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the Most High of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that which reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month of Caslu, with mirth and gladness.
So that's the reason why we observe the Feast of Dedication, or I should say rededication, to this very day. Because this is a great victory that the Most High allowed our forefathers to have. I can't understand for the life of me how the Most High did so many great things for us during the time of Purim, which is another feast day that we celebrate, during the time of the Maccabees, with the Exodus in Egypt, only for the Most High to send his son to come and die so that we don't have to observe the fact that the Most High delivered us. Does that make sense? Because it don't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. Why would the Most High go through all this to deliver us and show his power for his son to come down and say, okay, you don't have to do that no more? That didn't make no sense. Continue reading, brother, the last 2 verses.
Verse 60, at this time also they builded up the strong Salakia. Verse 60, at that time also they builded up the Mount Sion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down, as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethsura to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea.
So all praises to the Most High. That's just a brief overview. I know it was a lot of reading, family. I really only did the PowerPoint for the first chapter. I know it was a lot of reading, but some of you brothers and sisters are new to the faith, you know, so forth and so on. So it's always good to refresh your memory every year. And this is something to cheer you up and show you that the Most High delivered our forefathers many times in the past, and the Most High is going to deliver us in these last days, although things seem pretty ominous. And, you know, right now with everything that Esau is doing and trying to do, but the Most High is going to deliver us just like he delivered our forefathers. But I do have a question for the brothers and sisters that's still in the chat. I do have a question for you. Here's the question I want to ask you. What did you not read about the Feast of Dedication? There's something that you didn't see there. I'm going to see if somebody knows where I'm going with this. There's something that you did not read there that people say is a part of the Feast of Dedication. What is it? Oh, snap, everybody. You see man Sonetta in the building. We see Sonetta in the building. What up, Sonetta? Was good.
He coming to keep the high holy days. Come on home, Sonetta. Stop fronting. You know you're an Israelite.
That's right. Latricia Lewis. Okay, but that's not what I was talking about. It's something that people say is a part of the Feast of dedication of Hanukkah that you don't actually read there. I'm gonna give you guys like 1 or 2 more minutes to see what y'all say. If not, I'll just tell you.
Well, something with the candlestick and the oil and the miracle.
That's what she said, which is good, but that's not what I'm talking about. All right, I just right. DJ got it. Right, DJ got it. 100%. So you guys have been hearing that people say that Hanukkah is our Christmas. You know, the Christians and everybody else, they celebrate Christmas, but we have Hanukkah. Hanukkah is our Christmas, where we're supposed to be going and giving gifts to each other just like they do on Christmas. But you guys didn't read that in the scriptures. That's a tradition of men. I'm not saying it's a bad tradition. I'm not saying it's an evil tradition. I'm not saying if somebody gives gifts, it's a bad thing, but you don't read that in the Bible. And for many years, even in my early years in this walk, right, I used to believe the same thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? We don't have to celebrate Christmas because we have Hanukkah. We give gifts during Hanukkah. But you don't actually read that in the scriptures. And it took Bud Lawyer many years ago to challenge me on that. It was like, yo, show me that in the scriptures. And I couldn't show it in the scriptures. It's not there. So that whole custom of giving gifts and everything on Hanukkah and stuff like that, it's a tradition of men. It's not really biblical. Nothing wrong with it, but it's not biblical. It's not in the Bible. Hope everybody understands that. Well, I know that Saint Nicholas would give gifts in Russia, but to say that he was doing it for Hanukkah, I've never seen a source that says that. If you have it, I'll be more than happy to have it to add to my arsenal. I know St. Nicholas was definitely doing stuff like that, but for Hanukkah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'd have to see that in writing, in some type of source. Well, Benjamin Wolf said it's Genesis 49 and 27 Hanukkah. I would say no before I even go there, but let's see what Genesis 49 and 27 says. Let's see what it says.
No, I think that's his name.
Oh, that's his name? I'm wilding. I thought that was a question. Oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, duh.
I saw that.
We over here talking about dedication. You talk about Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
This is the Most High feast day, man. We dictate what we're gonna talk about.
So, the Israelites come out of Shem, Sarnetta. The Israelites come out of Shem. That's how we're Israelites. They come out of Shem. Nobody ever said that Shem, Ham, or Japheth were Israelites. Nobody said Abraham was an Israelite. No, none of that stuff. In order to be an Israelite, you have to be a son of Jacob. One of the sons of Jacob. Don't time sign it out, family. Don't do that don't time sign it out, family. Don't do that because when I'm in his chat, he doesn't time me out, y'all. So it's cool. We good. We good. Please don't do that to Sonetta. He's good. All right, y'all. So anyways, I mean, it's okay, man. The brother's over here, supporting us, even if he's asking questions, whatever like that. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, y'all. I don't necessarily think he was debating. He was asking a question. That's what he does. So, I don't mind. So the Israelites come out of Shem, right? All the way down Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Jacob's descendants became known as the children of Israel. Right? But also you have other nations that come from Shem too. Esau comes from Shem. Ishmael comes from Shem. They all come from Shem. But they're not Israelites because they're not the sons of Jacob. It's real simple. It's not that hard. Judah Morning, you funny, man. All right, family, listen, I think we've been on for, let's see, how long we've been on? We've been on for over 2 hours. So, I just wanted to come on here and, go through these chapters with brothers and sisters, especially those of y'all that may not be a part of a congregation or a body. I don't really come on here much and do this. So I figured today would be a good day. Normally, we just do it amongst the camp. So, hopefully you brothers and sisters were edified. Did you brothers and sisters enjoy the PowerPoint that I gave earlier? If you brothers and sisters enjoyed the PowerPoint that I gave earlier, just let me know in the chat. Just put one in the chat. Let me know that it was edifying, that you got something from it. You may have learned something new. All right, all praises to the Most High. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All praises to the Most High. So listen, family, you guys see at the bottom of the screen, I'm about to get out of here. You guys see at the bottom of the screen, right, that the Academy is coming up in January. I've called half of you guys, and half of you guys I have not got a chance to speak to you yet. I literally have your phone numbers. The one of you guys that email me concerning being in the Academy, I have your phone numbers here. So I know there's some of y'all I got to call, and I will be calling you either tomorrow or Friday, all right? The Academy is starting in January. It's 6 months. You guys already know what the deal is. If you're interested, that's the email to email me. The phone number is also there if you guys want to call. And, all the stuff that I don't get to go into on here with the PowerPoints and everything, I'm going to go into. So if you guys enjoyed the PowerPoint, it's going to be that, but on steroids in the Academy. Like, we're really, really, really going to go in. All right. So reach out if you're interested. Probably after by the end of the week, I'm going to be contacting everybody that reached out to me to give you guys a definite date when we're starting. It's going to start in January, probably the first week, second week, the latest, but probably the first week. All right. Rita PV, shalom to you, and you're welcome. I'm glad that you were edified. I'm glad everybody was edified. Shout out to everybody that's watching on Facebook too. All right. I appreciate all the support. Once again, shout out to AOC. I see Ambassador Malak in the building. Deontay. Yeah, Deontay, I got you, King. I text you and gave you my number, so you good. Don't worry, you in good standing. I'm reached out to the people that just were new. But I got you. Matter of fact, you're going to be the first person I'm going to call tomorrow at some point. You're going to be the first person. You and Marsha, the brother Marsha from Long Island, I'm going to call him too. All right? So, all praises to the Most High, man. I love y'all, Israel. Stay in the spirit. All right? Once again, thank you guys for the support. And with that being said, family, we're just going to end it on a good note, a positive vibe. If you haven't hit the like button and you're in my house and you have not hit the like button, shame on you. Repent and believe the gospel. And with that, I say shalom.
I want to praise you, Yahweh. I want to thank you, Yahweh. I'm so grateful, Yahweh. I want to thank you, Yahweh.
For the promise, life is a blessing and life is a lesson. Life is a setback and life is progression. Life is uneasy at times, life is comfortable. Life will lift you up and at times life will humble you. Life is a gift, you better thank the Lord for it. Every chance you get, someone is less fortunate. Life goes in circles, life throws you curveballs. Life can be deceiving like preachers in the church halls. Life isn't promised. If I could be honest, the fact that I'm alive, that time has me astonished. Cause I came from the underground, being tossed around, being lost and found. Now they adore the sound of the priest, far from a nuance. Verses are proverbs, written's are the new songs. Another song for the blocks and the avenues. Everything is plain, I don't speak to them in parables.
I wanna praise you, Yahweh.
I wanna praise you.
I wanna thank you, Yahweh. I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
Yahweh. I wanna thank you, Yahweh.
For the power I see the world through different eyes. Every Sunday got the preacher telling different lies, hearing things that I really couldn't visualize. Should've listened, Big said you'd be hypnotized. I was a victim too, I say respectfully. They all up in the soup, don't know the recipe. Talking about I'm not who I was bred to be. Count me out, man, who made you the referee? Trying to get stripes, trying to cloud chase. At 19, I made an about face. Thanks to Christ, it's also about grace. And they lied when they said it ain't about race. But that's another song, I ain't the first to tell you. Woke up on a deeper and a surface level. Learned the laws and the Lord's changed my attitude. And the song is to show you how a gratitude. I'm so grateful.
I wanna praise you, Yahweh.